Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our last day of Women of Aviation Week. We have a panel for the last day with some of our women who work in aviation here at Garmin. So we'll go ahead and get started. I have some questions that I'll go through with them to learn more about them and what they enjoy about their job and how they got here today. And then if you think of questions as we go, you can submit them and we'll go through your questions at the end. So feel free to submit those as we go along today. But first, I want you all to introduce yourselves. So if you can say your name, your current position, how long you've been here at Garmin, where you went for undergrad, and where you grew up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Yu, and I have been with Garmin only a year, just past my first anniversary, which is great. And I went to University of Kansas, and I am an aircraft systems engineer here. So where I grew up, actually, I immigrated from South Korea when I was 10 years old. And then I moved around in the US a little bit and then settled down in Olathe, Kansas here where the headquarters is at during my sophomore year in high school.
Hello, everyone. I'm Valerie Rito. I am a project manager here. I have been here for 3 years, 3-year anniversary this month, so that was awesome. I went to Kansas State University, and I am originally from Liberal, Kansas, so Southwest Kansas.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jones. I'm a design certification engineer, and I've been with Garmin for 3 years. And I went to Iowa State University and actually grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Awesome. My name is Kelly Ammett. I am a software engineer here at Garmin. I've been here about 5 years, and I went to the University of Kansas, got my degree in software and computer engineering, and I actually grew up in Utah.
All right, so can you tell us each what the day-to-day is like in your job?
Yeah, let's start. So day-to-day in my job as a software project manager, it just kind of depends. So I support a handful of projects, and so it depends on the phases that we're in. If we're just starting off, there's a lot of upfront planning and coordinating with our software engineers, our software team leads to just develop our project plan. And then as projects are within development, it's a lot of communication. Just how are we doing? Where are we at? Are we meeting kind of the milestones? Do we have any new dependencies? So it varies day to day, just depending on where our projects are.
I'll go next because I work on one of the projects that Valerie coordinates. So on one of the software projects. And so my day is divided or not every day, but it's divided between like team coordination, project coordination within my team, and then like the application of those projects, actually writing the code or testing it, or sometimes taking it to benches and testing out the software.
So my day-to-day also looks different every day. I do some development process writing. I've done project auditing. So along the same lines of making sure that the project has completed all of their tasks, that all of their documentation is in order. As a certification engineer, I make sure that for individual projects, all of our certification paperwork that we send to the FAA is in order, and that we get the correct approvals that we need to make our products.
Lastly, what I do as a systems engineer is basically, Garmin makes a lot of really great aviation products, right? And when it gets installed in an aircraft, you have to kind of work through the design and understand the airplane and the product itself. And for example, maybe you're like a pilot and you want to listen to music, and it's a perfect day to just make it more perfect, right? And so Garmin makes this XM satellite, unit that brings music to the airplane, and you think about, okay, that's the only unit that you want or you should have, but you have to have headphones, speakers, and like all of these antennas. And as a design engineer, systems design engineer, I would look at all of that and understand the airplane and design the installation of that. So my day-to-day would be, studying the requirements, how the unit works, studying how the airplane works, and sometimes, just like you, I would look at certification documents as well, like the regulations, so that we don't we are in line with all of the laws and the requirements. And on a fun day, maybe I get to go out into the airport and see like an airplane, just land, and that would be my day to day.
So all of you play some sort of role in aviation in the industry. So was there a moment that piqued your interest in aviation, or how did you get into aviation?
I got hired for an internship, and the internship happened to be in aviation.
I kind of started the same way too. I developed interest in aviation after I started in this field. Actually, even with engineering too, I didn't really know anything about engineering until I got into it. Girls, when you're growing up, it wasn't used to be that you would see women in engineering roles, but yeah, once you got into it and you see all these people that were so passionate about aviation, and like you start wondering, okay, what is aviation? And you get to learn all of these really cool things about how airplane flies and how that thin sheet of aluminum can hold up that many people and weight. And just there were so many cool things about aviation once you got into it. And just thinking about how, as a woman and as a person who I am, like I can bring like goodness to this kind of field and advance it and make things better for things that people were so passionate about. That kind of drew me into aviation. Yep.
Yeah, so for me, when I moved to this area, I loved Garmin, so that's what really brought me first to Garmin, and I knew I wanted to try something different than what I had, so that was project management, and I didn't know that Garmin was in aviation, and so when I saw that, it was always something that was interesting to me. I didn't have a lot of exposure to planes being in Southwest Kansas. I think my first flight was like in high school, which is rare for some people and not for others. So that is really what drew me to aviation, just wanting to work at Garmin and seeing that I could be a project manager in aviation. So I tried that.
Yeah, that is all very similar to me. My first commercial flight wasn't until I was 18 or 19. And it wasn't until I started working here that I actually got the opportunity to fly in a small airplane, general aviation airplane with my team. So yeah, similarly, I in my degree in college, I knew I wanted to get into embedded systems as opposed to PC application development or web development. And Garmin makes a lot of cool devices. So I was very excited to find Garmin, and I got put in aviation, and that's where my interest in that started.
I would agree. I don't work directly in aviation, but I learned so much about aviation since coming to Garmin. It's been really cool to see, and it's so fun, like you said, to see everyone's passion for it here. So now that you work at an engineering company, what is one thing that surprised you about engineering?
Yes, everything. But one thing I was thinking about with this, I think when I was going to school, especially college, I really thought that in college I was going to learn everything I needed to know for the industry, for my career, and then just going to go out and do it. But everything I'd learned in college, and I learned when I started in the industry that that was just the beginning. There's still so much more to learn, and more what we learned in college was how to seek answers and how to ask the right questions and how to figure things out.
So I think a lot of college courses really focus on design, and something that was surprising to me getting into the workforce was that a lot of jobs don't involve design. So I am an electrical engineer, and I do no electrical design work at all anymore. It's really important for me to understand electrical design and know how our products work, but I do not do any design work myself. So it was a little bit surprising to me just how many engineering jobs don't involve design work.
So for me, it was when I got an industrial engineering degree. I realized I forgot that in the intro. I thought I'm going to only work with industrial engineers. And then even as I got into an industry that is typical to industrial engineers, I got to work with mechanical engineers, chemical engineers. In my time here, I definitely work with a broad range of engineers. So software engineers, electrical, mechanical. I think that's something that surprised me the most.
For me, I said I first heard engineering, when I first started into that internship program. And so I was thinking, okay, engineering, math and science, everything's gonna be cut and dry, boring, or, objective and things like that. But once you get into engineering, you find how creative it is and artistic it is. And there's so much diversity and subjectivity, I guess, in engineering. And, I love math and science. I really appreciate it, but I also like music and literature and art as well. And I found all of those elements in engineering and even working with people and things like that. And that was the most surprising. It was very subjective. And I think that whole art of engineering was very surprising to me. Yep.
So, what did you all get involved in during high school or college that you feel positively impacted your career path?
Guess I can start first this time. I got really blessed with an opportunity when I was a junior in high school. At the high school that I was attending nearby, they had a engineering mentored internship program with a local aerospace company, and so I interviewed for it and got to experience what engineering was about and what aviation was about as well at the same time. And that, I was at the time kind of thinking, okay, should I go into teaching or like being like a vocalist, or even, when you take the ACT test, they kind of give you suggestions on what you want to do. And it's like, some of them was like actuarial science, and it was like, huh. It sounded really boring. And then I got into engineering through that program, and I got to see, all about engineering and the people. And that kind of drew me in because it made me meet up with lifelong friends and mentors as well, not just introduction to engineering, but it molded me in a good way.
So I guess similarly, when I was in high school, we had a day where we were allowed to, or a program where we were exposed to a couple of the engineering companies around. And then I was lucky enough to day shadow an electrical engineering woman who worked at one of those companies. And what really struck me was how many different applications engineering had. So that's why I decided to do it in college. And then when I was in college, I kind of got adopted by a professor. And so then I was a teaching assistant for him for the rest of my college career. And he was really encouraging and really supportive of my individual interests and how those would work together, and was always pushing me to learn more and explore more. So I was really fortunate in that aspect.
Yeah, unlike Emily and Sarah, I didn't have much exposure at all in high school to engineering. I didn't know that I liked math and science, and I took as much of those as I could. I especially learned in high school that I liked to study with other people. Study groups were fun, and it was a great way to learn. So it wasn't until I went to college that I got to explore any of the engineerings and learned that I did like programming, and then started to learn what options there were out there.
So for me, it probably started earlier, maybe kind of 5th grade through middle school. I got to participate in what's called Odyssey of the Mind. And it's just this kind of program that presents you a problem, and you have to solve this problem in a specific way. So we would need to build a vehicle that would do a certain function. And so that really spiked my interest in the idea of problem solving. How do we address this problem and in creative solutions? But really in high school for me, I had a really great math teacher. And so I credit her with all of my, part of my success in that I enjoy math, and that it was easier for me to really get into the engineering discipline because she had given me that strong background. And then just as I got into college and being in the College of Engineering and exposed to it, that's really what drew me to it.
So, how much time in your jobs are spent doing technical work? And then how much time would you say is spent doing interpersonal tasks?
Yeah, I think it's fun question because just what do we mean by technical? Which it could be a lot of things. So I think I mentioned before that I do quite a bit of collaboration with my team in meeting formats or just short calls or conversations. And in some ways that might not be considered technical, but in a lot of ways it is. It requires technical knowledge to like be part of these conversations. And then I think what a lot of us think of as technical is going to actually write or design or research different things. So I have a good mix of both of those two things. It varies day to day, but you could almost say 50-50.
I would say that I'm almost 100% interpersonal and I guess organizational tasks. So like I said before, it's really important for me to have a background in technical work and be able to do it if I need to. The team that I'm on is sort of a jack of all trades, so I'm never quite sure what I'm going to be asked to do, but that's part of why I love it. And so a lot of my stuff is almost exclusively organizational and interpersonal work.
So similar to Sarah, almost all of my time is interpersonal work. You know, there is some technical work in there, and just being able to kind of understand some of the discussions on things that I'm not super in depth to, right? But a lot of my time is really working with our engineering teams and our team leads and planning out what we're going to do. And that does take technical work, and that you need to be able to see that the bigger picture and that these things are all interrelated. But for the most part, it is interpersonal work.
For me, as a systems engineer, it's mostly technical work, probably 85% or so, and then remaining would be just, maybe for like a program manager, I would give statuses or do training and doing self-development and talking to the manager and things like that. So, but in my role, there's more technical work. Yep.
So what would you tell your younger selves?
So I'll start. I think I would tell my younger self to really focus on learning to enjoy learning. I think sometimes you can get focused on, I need to get good grades for this next step. But really, I've learned that when you enjoy learning, the grades come with that. And so that's probably the number one thing I would say. And the second is slow down. It sounds so cliche, but I think everybody told me enjoy the phase of life you're in. And I was always looking forward to the next phase, whether it be middle school, high school, or college. So if I could go back, those would be the two things I would tell my younger self.
So a little similar to that. I think I was interested in so many things, and in high school, I guess I thought I needed to have the right answer all the time, or at that time to go to college. So what I would tell myself would be, it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to learn what you like and not like as you go along. Maybe I chose engineering and stayed with it because I found out that I do like it. But take the time, slow down, learn about what you like and what you do, who you are, and you're gonna be able to do it, whatever it is. So that is what I would tell myself. Yep.
I think I would remind myself that you do belong in engineering. So, just because there aren't a lot of people who look like you in the field doesn't mean that you don't belong there. If it's something that you're passionate about and you care about, then you should definitely go after what you want, and just sort of a little extra support to make sure that you can achieve what you want.
Yeah, I agree with all of you, and I feel like Valerie took the words out of my mouth. I was thinking the same thing, but I really have would want to tell my younger self to let your curiosity drive you, like follow what interests you, but also consider why you don't want to consider a topic or a career or other things or even hobbies, just because if it's intimidation or fear, those should really be interrogated too, because you can do those things, and I wouldn't want those things to hold you back. But yeah, follow your interests.
About those answers. So do you have any tips for the college search process? How did you narrow down what schools you were considering?
So I was a bit lazy when I was doing college searches. And my thought process was basically, I'm going to go to the closest, best engineering school, like the intersection of those two things. So for me, it was Iowa State because I grew up in Iowa and Iowa State is sort of known as the engineering college. And so I decided to go there. And then I was basically had the mindset, if I don't like it, I'll just transfer. And then I never did. So I liked it.
Yeah, similar for me. I never broadened my search too much for college, just what was reasonably close to where I needed to be. And I did try to make sure that my engineering program was accredited. For my program, that was ABET accredited. And then in hindsight, I realized that I had to do a transfer in the middle of my degree, and I realized the second university I went to had a really great career services. Like really were focused on helping you get from being a student to getting into the field. And I would try to find out if the university you're looking at is focused on that and is prioritizing that. If they have like resume assistance and good career fairs and like work with the industries in the area.
So for me, it was, I knew I wanted to stay in Kansas, and K-State for me had a great engineering school. And when I toured, it felt like home. And not only just the university, but the college itself. I also had a really great recruiter that would come out to Southwest Kansas. So that is was my first exposure to K-State. Those are the reasons I picked K-State.
For me, I had priorities, I think, that I wanted to look at when I was choosing a school. First, it was the affordability, of course, and second was where my friends were going. I was a little bit shy back then, a little bit now too, but I wanted to be near my friends, and it's like, where are you going? And everyone went to KU. It happened to be that, and lastly, I knew KU had a good aerospace engineering program, which was what I was looking at in the beginning. And so all of those kind of clicked together. And in hindsight, too, I wish I would have just visited all the campuses because it felt like when you're there, the campus just speaks to you. You just got to be here, I'm near your school. So, but yeah, that's how I chose my school. Yep.
So what skills or passions would you say are needed to be successful in your job?
You can start on this one. I don't know. As an engineering student, I think everyone's very technically astute. So I'm just going to leave that out. And in terms of from the career aspect, I feel like having the passion to want to work in teams and develop your people skills is really important because engineering is very technical, but at the same time, you're always working with people. And even if you don't have that skill, just wanting to develop it and help each other and like try to drive to a goal, having that mindset is really important in my profession. And then just making sure, since we're in aviation, we want to have fun, but at the same time, we want to be safe. There's life on the line all the time. So just having that common sense, having the integrity, the mindset for safety, but at the same time, we want to make this kind of available for you to enjoy. So being innovative and creative at the same time. So just developing that, I guess, yeah, that balance would be what I would recommend.
I think for me, Emily said it perfect, is just the passion of working with people to solve a problem. Because we solve very complex problems, and it is that working with a team. I think passion maybe to serve is another one. You serve your team, you serve the segment that you're in, but then also to be adapt to change, because things do change often, whether it be that we're going to change a product or we're going to look at it a little bit differently, but just being open to tackling that new opportunity and willing to address it as it comes.
So I think a lot of engineers have this stereotype that it's okay to be good at math and science and then not care about like English or art or any of those things. And I would say cut that out because those things are super valuable and every team needs those. So again, on the teamwork aspect, you need to be able to interact with people, communicate effectively with them. But also all of your other interests that aren't engineering focused are going to be essential additions to the team and how you work and problem solve and contribute to the team. And so please keep nurturing those as well because they are very important.
Absolutely agree. I think all of our interests inform each other, and so you can learn from all aspects of your life and just be curious. Yeah.
So this is my final question. So like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions you want to ask these women, you can submit those and we'll go through those next. But my last question is, how have you seen yourself grow in your skills over the years?
So the people who know me well might find this surprising. But I think I've become more assertive as I've developed. So sort of when I first started working here, I would defer to other engineers about what they thought was best and how to do stuff. And it's good to do that to sort of get the feel of how the culture is at the company you're working for. But then to be able to develop your own voice and speak for yourself and to advocate and not let people speak over you because you are an engineer and you got hired for a reason and your opinion matters.
Yeah, similarly, I have developed a lot of trust in myself over the years as, all of it can be scary, intimidating. College is scary, getting a job is scary. But like every time you take on a new challenge or project, you just grow a little bit. And it's actually hard to see like in the short term that you are growing, like even day to day. But I don't know, you look back even a year or 2 years and it's kind of astounding. So yeah, but it's been slow progress.
I would say, Sarah covered on it. It is just an increase in confidence as you move through your career because, like we said, when you get into the field, you think that you need to have had all that knowledge, that you should come into the job with it. And although we come in being very technically competent, you won't come in knowing everything. So being comfortable with that and just increasing your confidence as you learn more and knowing that, you've been hired for a reason. And so I would say that for me, it is that increased confidence as I've learned more about our systems and our processes specifically.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because, like even for me too, I've only been with Garmin a year, but I've been in the aviation industry for about 20 years, and I've been through several roles in that. And I started out as a mechanical engineer, and then I got curious. I was following my curiosity to how do I do certification engineering, but I told you I was kind of shy as an engineer. But that certification engineering role required like leading meetings, communicating and coordinating people, like all of these people who already have like 20 plus years of, aviation and engineering experience, and it's very daunting. So it's like, I have this curiosity but I still I have this area that I'm not really sure about. So, but you just take it and then you kind of learn how to self-develop yourself and, Toastmasters, or mentors, or even just like books or, things like that. Keeping that drive to make yourself better so that you can overcome that area that you're not really comfortable with. And then just, now as a systems engineer, now I'm looking at more opportunity to kind of develop myself technically. And so just, that's how I think I've grown in my skills, following that curiosity and interest. But if there's something that's kind of daunting to you, just be comfortable with it. You can overcome it by, several means, people and resources out there. So, yeah.
And
So one of our questions is, at Garmin, will you be able to stay in aviation, or will you rotate or be encouraged to rotate through our other segments like automotive, fitness, or marine as your career progresses?
Just one answer. Probably
Yeah,
right.
yeah, one of you can take it.
So I would say that internships are a great way to try out different fields that you want to. Once you've been hired full time, it's really up to you. So at least I've found that everybody at Garmin is pretty supportive. And so if you find that you have an interest in a different segment after you've been hired into one, it's really easy to go and talk to people who are in that segment and ask them, like, what is your job like? How do you feel about it? Who do you work with? And then it's at least in my experience, managers and team leads are usually pretty open to having those conversations with you because we're most interested in retaining the talent to Garmin. So having people move around internally isn't that big of a deal.
Okay. So this would be one for all of you. Can you tell us one thing a faculty did when you were a student that had a big impact on you?
So like I said before, I was basically adopted. And so what this turned into is that eventually that professor became my major professor when I was in grad school, and was really supportive, really encouraging, and he made a point to know everyone's names and to make sure that each student felt like they mattered. And this was sort of a big deal because, as I mentioned, I was a teaching assistant and we taught the Introduction to Electrical Engineering course. So we had like all of the freshmen in one course for each semester. And there were a lot of them. There are a lot of students. But knowing that someone was looking out for you and was invested in how well you were doing, especially if you're right out of high school and you've moved away for the first time, and you really need a support system. And so that was something that we found had a huge impact on our students, was making sure that they knew that they could come talk to us if their assignments were late or they needed an extension on something, is that we were thoughtful of them as a human and as a person, and not just they needed to turn in assignments.
I will add, because I think that's totally awesome. And I can't off the top of my head think of a really great experience I had with a professor, but I think a lot of that is because of my own lack of approaching professors. I had a lot of intimidation and fear, and I think I would even avoid the professor as much as possible. Which was my own loss. It was a lot harder. I just always took my own route. I was going to figure this out myself. Whereas they're really there to help. They're there to teach. And there were a lot of great teachers at my university. But yeah, I try to ask questions. It's okay. There's not dumb questions.
Kind of the same way too. They were very open whenever I approached them, but I don't think I consider them as a mentor to approach. And it was because the first 2 years I was living on campus and enjoying the whole experience, but the last 2 years I was commuting, and I think my focus was more towards the internship that I had with that local aerospace company. So that mentorship came from not from the faculty, but the actual mentors at work. So I didn't have a faculty that I could think of at the moment, but I think it was because it was fulfilled in another way.
It's hard for me to pick one, and I think that's a great position to be in. So I mentioned K-State felt like home, and we are the second smallest department in the College of Engineering. And so there were several times, where professors they're very open to learning more about you and your interests, and really helped mold, I think that you have your core classes, but additionally these other classes would help based off your interest set, helped me select internships based off of that. Our department head would dress up like Santa Claus for our holiday parties. And so just, that being interested in me as a person first, and then secondary as, a student. Although that they did that well, I had great professors and always were always open to, meeting outside of office hours. And so I'd just say that overall, that was a good experience.
So at some point, we've all doubted ourselves and our own abilities. How did you work through that?
So that is it's ever changing. To say that right now at this point in my career that I don't struggle with those would be a lie. I think knowing that's normal, and you may have that happen to you forever. So just that perspective, I think also mentorship and friendship to take those concerns to people that you work with and trust, and to get that reassurance that has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, and I've even had managers too, where we've had such an open relationship that we could talk about these things, and they were very supportive and encouraging, and just giving, sharing their lives too and their experiences. And yeah, through most of it, it wasn't just myself, as you mentioned. It was very more of that relationship that you find in your lives that kind of helped you and kind of helped you overcome that doubt. Mhm.
So like Valerie said, if you feel that way, you're not alone. We've all felt like that at different points. And so having somebody that you trust either at work or in your personal life, or, if you have friends at work, that you can talk to them and trust them when they tell you that you're doing a great job and that you do belong here. And having that support network is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a regular conversation with myself to try to recall successes that I've had, and intentionally, like, hey, I was able to solve this problem. I can do this one, because the doubt comes up all the time. But teammates are helpful. Sometimes it's hard. Not everybody wants to be vulnerable, but sometimes it can really help somebody else when you acknowledge that you were struggling or frustrated or anything with your project, and they'll often share the same.
Another quick thing is that if you're not quite ready to talk to people about it yet, a good thing to do is to keep like an accomplishment log. And then this will also help when you do like year-end reviews, is that you can look back and like as you're going through the year and accomplishing tasks, keep a journal where you write those down, and then maybe like some lessons that you learned or some skills that you gained. And then when you're feeling particularly down, you can go back and you can look at it and remind yourself all of the stuff that you've accomplished throughout the year.
And something very similar. I have a folder in my Outlook that's called Smile. And whenever I get an email that, makes me feel good or makes me smile, I put it in there, and it's great for a rainy day when you need it. So what would you say is the most rewarding thing about your job here?
So it is really the people that I get to work with, and the complex problems that we work on solving. The complex problems would still be there, but if we didn't have such great people to work with, I think then, they'd still just be problems and they'd be harder to address. So those are, for me, people and the type of work we do.
Yeah, similarly, just coming together with a group of people and tackling these problems together and having successes together is just a real joy.
And like some of the, because we're in aviation, just thinking about how the products that we make, as a team, it enhances, safety and how we travel and how we enjoy life. And if you think about, just being part of that, and you as that person contributing to it and leaving a positive impact, not just in your life and like people around you and like people you don't even know, that's just a really good feeling.
The most rewarding thing for me is working really hard on something and then someone telling me I did a good job. So the recognition and being appreciated, because I know a lot of times we can go and work really hard and as part of a team, and then like the team gets thanked, and that's great. But sometimes it's nice just to have that personal affirmation that, you specifically did a really good job, and we see that and we recognize it and we really appreciate what you've been doing.
I like this question. What is one of your favorite books?
How do I pick one?
The one that I remember is Test of the Doorbells. I don't know why, but I just loved finding out all of the symbolism behind like all of the story and what the author intended, and just figuring out what this author was, imagining and was trying to portray to the readers, and just trying to connect. I think with that book, I had the best experience doing that. That's why I love the Test of the Doorbells. Yep.
So mine is The Alchemist by Pablo Coelho. So similar. What is the author trying to convey? Because there's a lot of symbolism and lessons in that book, although it may not be intended for that purpose, but that's mine.
I really like fantasy, and a Harry Potter fan, and a Game of Thrones. But one of my favorite series that I've come across in the last few years has been the Patronus series by Octavia Butler. Patronus, and the first book, Wild Seed, is my favorite book. Yeah, and it's just fun.
So I'd have to say The Elegance of the Hedgehog. And it's actually a book that was originally written in French, but I read the English translation because I do not speak French. And it's a really cool book. It's about a couple different perspectives of people who live in the same apartment building in France, and sort of about how we can put on these personas and these images that we project to other people, but that might not be who we actually are. And then having friends that are caring enough to see us for who we are and not who we pretend to be.
And I have to ditto the Harry Potter. Should have said that first.
All right, I think we'll end it on that one, but thank you so much for being here and for all the work you do for the field of aviation. And thank you all for joining us today. And we hope you learned something and you're inspired to maybe go into the field of aviation yourself. You can check out the Garmin Women of Aviation site for other content that we've been publishing this week. And thank you, and have a good rest of your afternoon.